Hello, flowConf. Thank you, everybody, for coming. Thank you, Udosh and team, for bringing together such an incredible group of people. I'm really excited to share with you, learn from you over the next day. And I wanted to talk to you about how you take your Webflow site and make it the answer, and put it in front of people where they are, just like we've been trying to do forever, right? We just heard, hey, the goal of these sites is to go drive business results. Part of that is getting people to show up and getting them to convert. So we're going to talk about that for a little bit. There's a bunch to cover here. I bet you have questions. Feel free to share more after. I'm genuinely curious what's on your mind, but I'll set the stage a little bit. So why has this become important? Obvious to say it's changing how buyers are buying. Today, most of the CMOs I talk to are saying, hey, look, my organic traffic, it's flat. Maybe it's trending down some, not the headline grabbing 80, 90%, but this Bain study, 15, 20, 25%, totally normal. And at the same time, while that's threatening our ability to go drive revenue, our ability to build our brands, to show up in front of people and tell stories, that's also under threat. Because the LLMs are taking our carefully crafted words and reformulating them, sometimes leaving us out entirely, sometimes really confidently getting it wrong and not describing our brand accurately. Why does that matter? Because it's useful, because people are using it a ton. Forrester surveyed a bunch of B2B marketers, 95% of them said, I'm going to use Gen AI this year in my buying process. G2 surveyed a bunch of folks, 51% of them said, I am going to start my evaluation with Gen AI, and 69% of them said, I changed my shortlist with this. So those are B2B examples, also applies in B2C, and ends up being really impactful to our ability to drive revenue and build brands. That means our websites, as Udosh said earlier, they need to speak to humans. They need to tell visually stunning, emotionally evocative stories that engage people, because people are going to want to hear your story told your way forever. That is not going to change, even as they need to speak to machines, because people are learning from LLMs. And the machines want the same information, but concisely, clearly, inexpensively, because they are constantly balancing how expensive is it for me to crawl your stuff versus how good is it? And so it's in our interest to make this as inexpensive as possible, and Webflow has a lot to do to help you there. So we ourselves have observed, and I want to share a bunch of data about what we're seeing, that the traffic from LLMs, it behaves differently. It's small and growing. Last summer, it was 8% of our self-serve conversions, and for many CMOs I talked to, the traffic is low to mid-single-digit percentage, but growing really rapidly. And at the same time, people were further down the funnel. Our LLM referred human traffic converted 6 times, not 6%, 6x better than unbranded organic search. I think that's the right comparison, and that is not an anomaly. Ahrefs and SEMrush, they found 4x to 23x, and every CMO I talked to is like, yeah, this traffic is just further down the funnel. So you get this differently behaving traffic. It's also growing really rapidly. It is now 18% across the millions of sites Webflow hosts of total bot traffic. It's 3x from last year. And among them, at least today, ChatGPT is easily the top one, in the 90%. And most of the people I talk to say the same. When we then ask people, hey, is this going to be impactful to your business? We surveyed 400 marketers, 93% of the execs, 91% of the practitioners said, yes, really important over the next couple of years. Then we asked the practitioners, do you really know what AEO is? Do you understand this concept? Only 25% of them said they did. There's a huge opportunity for each one of us to go lead now, to go after what is effectively a new channel, a new medium where there are bargains to be had. There'll be ad bargains. We will get ads, we will get e-commerce, we see some of that now. I mean in terms of the effort you put in and the benefit you get out. We all work so hard to eke out one spot in a keyword ranking. The things you can do in AEO, I'll share some examples, they come more easily now because it's early. So what do you need to build on your team? What skills do you need to bring to the table? Turns out they're pretty similar to what we've already got with SEO. Like your SEO team is your AEO team. Your SEO agency is your AEO agency because the work, it's a Venn diagram with like heavy overlap. They are not radically different. The people that are like, SEO is dead, it was supposed to be dead with mobile, it was supposed to be dead with social, like it's not going anywhere. And the core things of, I'm gonna create genuinely valuable content that helps my prospects through the funnel, that's still fundamentally true. Our core job as marketers and designers and builders to build a brand and drive revenue, that hasn't changed either. Okay, some of the mechanisms have changed, and we're gonna talk about some of those in a minute, but the core thing has remained the same. We went and looked at 1,000 different sites and said, hey, what's holding people back from AEO maturity? And to my surprise, it was actually a bunch of the fundamentals. There's still a lot of sites that don't have SEO metadata where they need it to be. Hint, we can help you auto-generate that. There are a bunch of sites that aren't yet ensuring that every link on the site is not broken. The internal linking is breaking. If that's not there, don't even think about AEO. Like, go fix that fundamentals. And then some things that I expected. I expected, hey, you know what? We're not answering the questions fully yet with our content. That's evaluation that's an evolution that'll happen over time. But really, it's like basic blocking and tackling that holds us back from tackling AEO. And I invite you to think about AEO and guide your teams and guide your board in 4 categories: content, technical, authority, and measurement. As you're thinking about how do I evolve and expand from SEO to AEO, these are the 4. We'll talk through each one. Content fundamentally is about answering questions. Technical fundamentally is about making it easy for the LLMs to understand the structure and meaning of your content. Authority, getting plain text mentions around the web. And measurement is about shifting from measuring keyword ranking to how often did I show up. Make sense so far? Cool. In content, we made up a rubric, a scale of how to grow. I'll share more about how you can get it later on. But in content, the core thing, we all spent so many years saying, hey, look, we want to be known for these topics. There are a bunch of keywords that these are associated with. Great, we're going to go optimize for those. Now you take those same topics and you say, look, what are the questions my buyers are asking throughout the funnel related to those? And you begin optimizing for that. That is the core shift. How do you get those questions? In one sense, you know what they are already. You talk to your buyers every day. In another sense, if you want some inspiration or data, go run an LLM over your sales call recordings. That's literally ground truth. Those are literally the questions people are asking. Go run it over your sales emails, over your CS emails. Go to Google and say, look at the people also asked. Go ask an LLM, what are people asking about me? It's not going to give you Google Search Console data. We'll get that eventually, but it will give you some sense. Okay, so you pick those. Then go create content that answers them, because the LLMs are getting these longer queries from people. And they want to see, are you answering those? So when we all learned to speak Google, our average query was 4 words long. Now, it's 23 words long and getting longer. And by the time somebody clicks on a link in an LLM, typically they've got 100+ words of context because they've gone back and forth some. So the tail of content has gotten longer. And our job then is to go answer those questions and have the LLM say, ooh, this content, really similar to the question that was asked. Then you want to answer them throughout the funnel. I'll pick on Webflow, like, what's a CMS? How do these CMSs compare? How long will it take me to implement? So think about each stage of the funnel and then answer them in depth. We found this to be quite useful as a mental model. We, and by we I mean Vivian Huang, who runs our SEO AEO team, tried putting the headers of blog posts in the form of a question, like the game Jeopardy. 13% lift in traffic from LLMs. Not statistically significant, right? These are like a handful of things, but sharing some of the data that we've been seeing. She was like, great, I'm gonna go do some of that. I've heard some people then say, well, got it, I now need to write for the LLM. And I invite you not to do that. You are still communicating to a human, whether it's directly on your site or through an LLM. And happily, Google has been like, don't do that. like go right for humans. Okay, so she's putting questions in the header of blogs some of the time. The LLMs then also value fresh content. And that makes the content machine as voracious as ever. 95% of the citations ChatGPT does were updated in the last 10 months. The median was 6 months. The need to create a lot of content is strong. We tried this. Vivian and team 5x the speed of refreshing content. In 2 months, they got 42% more traffic. What would you do for 42% more traffic in 2 months? And so, of course, traffic went up, conversion rate went down, right? That's how it works. No, conversion rate was up 14% because this was that more highly qualified traffic. And so you can have a real impact. Now, you might be tempted to say, okay, great. I need to create a ton of content. I'm going to go LLM create all of it. I'm very happy to say that it doesn't seem like that is working in this generation of search, unlike Search 1.0. Our friends at Graphite looked at a gajillion citations. 85% of them were either entirely human or human plus a little LLM. Now, in fairness, this was last year. It would surprise me if this low AI wasn't actually like all of this now, right? Everybody's writing with some, but to have a human in the loop, anecdotally, I and fellow SEO experts feel not data-driven, but anecdotes, like the black hat, I'm going to go game the algorithm, I'm going to go do a bunch of this stuff. There's just, the window for that is smaller this time around compared to Search 1. They're plugging the holes more quickly, and so focusing on the fundamentals of genuinely valuable content that helps your prospects, that's time well spent. Make sense on content? Webflow can help you do this. We can help you generate content. We understand your voice, we understand your brand. We can help you, whether it's a phrase, a paragraph, a whole page, create the content right there in context. You're like, hey, I want this to be longer, shorter. I want to create content like this, and then go translate it. And we're going to hear more about that in another session to different parts of the world so you can be more relevant and then personalize it, all things that the LLMs appreciate. The category people did the worst on, technical, by far. It's the thing that held people back the most. And in technical, you go from optimizing for keywords to doing a bunch of things that help the LLMs understand the structure and meaning of your content. It's the thing that is most impactful in terms of moving people through to higher levels of maturity, and yet it often requires getting an engineer and a marketer in the room at the same time, and we know that never happens. And so we hope to enable you to do that on your own. First, let me talk about the potential impact of that. So you can signal structure in a variety of ways. You can do it in the content itself. Vivian and team tried putting a table of contents on blogs. In 4 weeks, they got 59% more traffic from the LLMs and 23% more traffic from Google. Great. Added it to the template, it's everywhere. You can also do it with bulleted lists. You can do it with headlines that describe actually what's underneath rather than just being a teaser. I've seen some data say that LLMs decide, they'll crawl your whole page, but processing it, they'll decide do they want to invest the calories to process the whole thing after like 20, 25, 30% of the page. So you want to put some good meaty stuff up there. Okay, that's one way. Another way is with metadata, the stuff the machines see but the humans don't. We've been doing this for a long time. We should have SEO metadata everywhere. If you don't, the product team now built a site audit where you can go get in one view, in my humble opinion, it's the right way to do it. One view across your site, all these pages are missing metadata. Here is a list of them, and here we auto-generated the metadata. And then we, the humans, get to say yes, no, change, yes, no, change, so that we get it site-wide efficiently, and we get to have a human in the loop. Same thing for alt text. The machines are not going to read your images. It's too expensive. They are going to read the alt text, and it's good accessibility too. They're not going to read your videos. They will read the transcripts. Okay? The newest one, it's not new, but it's more impactful for LLMs, is schema. How many people in the room know schema? Most. For those that haven't heard of it, 6, 7, 8 years ago, Google, Bing, Yahoo, Yandex, and others came up with just another form of metadata, like Facebook's Open Graph. There are hundreds of them. It's like, here's a blog page, here's a bio page, here's a product page, here's a company page. I was super thrilled when the product team built auto-generation of schema, where we will crawl your page and auto-generate the schema you need for the page, or do it on a CMS collection, dynamically updating for each piece of content. It's hard to overstate how impactful this one is. To give you one example, we took our top 6 product pages and put FAQs at the bottom of them, same content as we had on the page, and then auto-generated schema for those FAQs. In 2 weeks, more than half, 57% of the incremental citations Webflow got in LLMs were from those 6 pages. Okay, that's interesting, until you realize we have 250,000 pages. Those 6 got 57%. Huge impact, and they got 24% more traffic. And so you can have an impact tomorrow. Not metaphorically tomorrow, literally tomorrow, because the LLMs are running searches almost all the time. This is not some cherry-picked example. There are widespread examples like this. Yes, there are plenty of experiments that don't work, but this wasn't the 1 in a million I want to go talk about broadly. It's early days. You, by taking advantage of this auto-generation, can do things that everyone should be but isn't. 73% of Google's top 10 search results have schema on them. But only 12% of sites do. It's blew my mind when I saw that. And if you're in B2B, only 2% of sites do. Yet, when you put structured metadata, 42% more citations. Who wouldn't want that? Especially if it's auto-generated. And I think the reason goes back to the thing we were talking about earlier. It's because to get this right, you have to have a marketer and an engineer in the same room, and that just isn't going to happen. So we hope to empower the designers, the marketers, the non-technical folks to do this in a way that the LLMs are happy with. That's technical. Authority. The core thing about authority is that you shift from backlinks, they still matter, don't stop, to plain text mentions around the web. Why? Because the LLMs, they're looking for consensus. They're looking to hear the same thing everywhere, and they're looking for popularity, to hear it a lot. And so brand is back. Brand is back because it causes us to speak consistently everywhere. PR is back because it gets us to show up in more places. Have your executive team do the interview, do the blog post, do the podcast. You want to show up in more places because each one of those is going to influence the LLMs more than it did in search. You also could consider showing up in places where the LLMs are like, hey, this is original human content. And so YouTube is now the #1 cited domain across the LLMs. Again, they're crawling the transcripts, not the videos. Reddit shows up in a lot of places as #3 on Google. And you see G2, for those in B2B, is the 4th most cited domain. Each of these are places where the LLMs are like, I get other people's unvarnished perceptions. Now, connecting this to the first category, content, I've heard some people say, and the data supports the initial part, LLMs tend to refer to these folks and other sites upper funnel, and they tend to refer to your website lower funnel, especially when people are asking about your product. So that's data. The thing people then say from that is, I'm going to stop generating upper funnel content on my site. And in my humble opinion, that's dead wrong. You will remain the most authoritative source of content for the LLMs, whether it's directly to humans or through the machines, permanently. You need to give them a data source. And so we hope to help you do that very easily, but don't stop generating full funnel content. That's authority. And lastly, measurement. At its core, measurement, you shift from, I want to rank for keywords, and you shift mental model to, I pick the questions I want to show up for, did I show up? And it's statistical, because we all know you go to the LLM, you get a different answer every time. Rand Fishkin had 600 people run a dozen domains, thousands and thousands, dozen questions, thousands and thousands of times. How many times in 1,000 do you think people got the same list? It was 1 in 100. How many times do you think they got the same list ordered the same way of when they asked for a recommendation? It was 1 in 1,000. So there's a lot of variation in the answers. So the mental model shifts to just, was I mentioned? It's statistical. You talk about percentage of time. Then you shift to something that sounds more like PR and comms. What was my share of voice relative to competitors? And then you go all the way to what was sentiment of how I was described, what was message pull-through, and what was accuracy. 3 things that we just didn't even think about with Google when they used our words. That's on the measurement we're used to talking about. But before that, you can do something that you can do with Webflow Analyze. And that is look at, hey, how much traffic am I getting from LLMs? You should know for yourself that mid-single digit percentage for your business. Why? Because you want to know, how much energy do I give this? I hear some people saying, I'm not going to focus on SEO, I'm only going to focus on AEO, but then you're missing the other 95% of the traffic. I invite you, give it more energy than it suggests, right? Let's say you have 5% traffic, treat it like give it the amount of energy you might give 15, 20, 25% of traffic. I don't know what the right number is, but overweight it, but don't go 100-0. So you can do that in Webflow Analyze, in GA, and other tools, and then go see what was the conversion rate for it, and go show that it's a much higher conversion rate. Okay, that's measurement. Last thought I wanted to leave you with was, not only are the answers changing every query, they're changing all the time because the models are changing. And so I invite you to think about the right way to approach this as the same way we approached paid ads, conversion rate optimization, marketing mix overall, and that's by having a hypothesis, being able to bring it to life, then testing it and seeing what the results were. This closed loop, the faster you can go around this, the faster you will find opportunity and go drive revenue for you and your clients. And I was delighted when the product team said, yep, this is how we're going to build too. So in Webflow today, you can go say, I've got this hypothesis on AEO, let's pick on that. And I'm going to go after one of these 4 categories and use the tools that we have, and then go test it, and then bring it to life, just with the people in this room, and then use Webflow Analyze to see, did it work? You can then, in Webflow, take those results, and it'll say, hey, I looked at the results. This worked, this didn't. I have these suggestions for you on what to do next. And in fact, if you review it and press this button, I'll go implement those suggestions for you. And so you can, without a technical team, they can get as involved as they want. They're not excluded, they're optional. You can then go around this closed loop much, much faster, which we believe is the right formula because nobody really knows, right? Like all these stats I shared, they're high probability plays to run. They're not guarantees. And we see it all the time. This is MCP usage on Webflow. It's like up and to the right. People are running more quickly. So how do you see how well you're doing? Well, I invite you again to think about it in these 4 categories. Content, where you're answering questions. Technical, where you're making it easy for the LLMs to consume your content. Authority, where you want plain text mentions. And measurement, where you want to see how often am I showing up. And we see real impact from going after this. We are present as Webflow just by running through these practices. No like secret magic sauce, these fundamentals. We're present in 67% of the answers we care about. We have #1 share among CMSs. You can have an impact tomorrow. And to help you think through what to do next, we took those 4 categories, we made up 5 levels, and we came up with this mental model. This is our maturity model, where our hope is that this helps you frame for your teams, frame for your execs. Hey, here's where I am, here's what to do next. And if you would like to assess your site against this, we will generate for you a report automatically that gets really precise, saying, oh, hey, you need to update. You've only got, 80, 90% FAQ coverage, but like 20% of your content pages weren't updated even 6 months ago. And you should go focus on this page because it was 200 days ago. The details aren't specific. I'm sharing that we have an assessment here that will get to that level for your site. So if you go to webflow.com/AEOMA, AEO Maturity Assessment, that QR code, type in your domain name. We will then, half an hour later, email you with a full assessment like that with the rubric, against the rubric we were just talking about. We hope it's useful for you, for the agencies in here. We hope it's useful for your clients, and that it gives you actionable things you can then go do on Webflow, outside of Webflow, in the things you can't do there, to go help build your brand and go drive revenue. I know we don't have time for Q&A. It's not how the main stage is set up, but this is all a space we're learning together. This is a thoughtful point of view. If you've got other data, if you've got additional questions, please let's chat afterwards. I hope you found this useful. Thank you very much.